The state of California wants to make it very hard or impossible to evict tenants if a landlord wants to move into their own property or if they want to do significant repairs. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today. Once again, it's coming out of California. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that they're trying to come up with more restrictions that is going to make it even harder for landlords to operate within the state, okay? All they do is pass law after law after law. And in their mind, they think, oh, well, maybe if we pass all these laws, that'll make housing more affordable. You know, it blows my mind that they think that. Have they noticed how housing prices have gone up? And the more regulations they pass, nothing gets cheaper. It never gets cheaper. The only thing it does is make housing more expensive. It makes it so that developers and landlords don't want to even have their properties up for rent. And it makes it even harder for low income people to find housing they can actually afford. So when I saw these laws, you know what it really told me? It told me that, hey, these people, they're not trying to actually solve the problem, okay? The problem of an affordable housing shortage. What they're trying to do is get votes, okay? Because they can throw a law out there like this, right? And it looks good on paper. It looks good to the voters who are renters, right? They're like, oh yeah, you see, you're protecting renter rights and you're making it harder for landlords to take advantage of renters, right? Well, landlords aren't taking advantage of renters. The only reason these laws are even being put into place is because these politicians believe that they can get more votes by implementing this garbage, okay? And it hurts landlords, it hurts the number of affordable housing in the state. And overall, it's just another reason why I would never, ever, ever invest there. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. What do you think of a law that makes it harder for landlords to evict the tenants so they can move into their own property? What do you think of that? Okay? And when I say evict, keep in mind, okay, this isn't an actual eviction. Okay, we're talking about the just cause eviction thing. So let's say, for example, you get a tenant up in your property. You have that tenant sign a 1-year lease, a 12-month lease, because you're going to be out of the country for the next year for work, living in Kuala Lumpur, okay? And you come back from Kuala Lumpur, right? And you want to move back into your house that you had rented out for the entire last year. Well, you can't. Okay, you can't because the state of California says that your tenant now has more rights to that house than you do. You don't deserve to be able to move back into your own house. So screw you. You know, I covered a story about landlords in Oakland who they were moved because they were serving in the military, right? And they wanted to move back to Oakland after they got out of the military, and they had to pay. I mean, it was like an outrageous amount of money to get rid of this tenant. It was absolutely ridiculous. But that is the kind of thing that they're trying to push in California, okay? They want to make it either hard or impossible for you to be able to use your property as you see fit. And it's wrong. It's dead wrong, okay? But anyway, let's get into this article. This article is coming from caanet.org, and it says, bill complicating owner move-ins, significant repairs, advances in assembly. And that CAA is the California Apartment Association. So this is a pro-landlord group, okay? So let's get into the article. A bill opposed by CAA that would make it more difficult for landlords to move into their own properties or perform significant repairs continued to advance in the Senate or in the state assembly this week. On Wednesday, SB 567 by Senator Maria Elena Durazo, Democrat from Los Angeles, won approval from the Assembly Housing and Community Development Committee on a 6-2 vote. The bill now heads to the Assembly Judiciary Committee. The legislation would amend the Just Cause for Eviction provisions in California Tenant Protection Act of 2019, or AB 1482, in several ways. For example, it would redefine a property owner as a natural person with at least a 51% ownership interest. CAA argues this would prevent some landlords, particularly those owning property through a family trust or shared ownership, from occupying their own units or housing family members. And it absolutely would, okay? Now, I don't know, they say you have to own at least 51%. So how exactly do you do that when you own jointly with your wife, okay? I own my all my properties jointly with my wife. So she owns 50%, I own 50%. So I couldn't even move into my own property by their logic, okay? Because I don't own 51%. This is so dumb, okay? This is just absolutely ridiculous. But that's not all, okay? Let's continue. SB 567 would also require landlords to secure and present permits before terminating tenancies for significant repairs, a change that could complicate essential property maintenance. Further, it seeks to extend the notice period for landlords wishing to remove units from the rental market by requiring a lengthy notice and would bar future owners from renting out units that have been removed from the rental market. This change could significantly affect the sales of smaller properties, possibly reducing their market value and attractiveness to potential buyers. So, yeah, if you decide you want to remove the property from the rental market, right? Well, going forward into the future, no matter who buys the property going forward, you can never return it to the rental market. You are barred from doing so. You know how dumb that sounds? Okay? Listen, people deserve their property rights. And you stripping them away, thinking that, oh, well, somehow, like, how exactly is this going to help the rental market? It's not. It's not going to help the rental market. It doesn't provide more housing. It doesn't make anything cheaper. In fact, it causes prices to go up. And let me explain exactly how that is. Okay, simply put, you're going to have a lot of landlords here who are going to say, okay, seeing this legislation here, I don't even want to rent my properties out. I'm going to sell to owner occupants. And that means there's going to be fewer rental housing out there available. And the people who need that housing are going to have to pay more. Okay, they're just going to have to pay more. So, yeah, we're stuck in a situation where they think that more laws, more rules, more regulations is somehow going to solve the affordable housing crisis, right? This is a very bureaucratic, government, socialist way to look at things, right? They think that government is the solution to these problems, right? And it's not. The real solution to these problems is we need more housing, okay? We need less government. We need less rules, less regulations. All that stuff that says that, developers have to spend all this money for permits, all this money to, get approval for projects, all this, like, they got to jump through so many hoops in the state of California that it adds significantly to the cost of every single project that's done. And a lot of the projects don't get approved. I can't remember where I saw the article, and if I find it in the future, I will quote it, right? But I believe that they said that when it comes to new housing construction in Southern California, that the permitting and the zoning and all the processes, the government bureaucracy processes, added like $200,000 to the cost of every single home built. Okay, so don't quote me on that exactly. I'm going to look up the article and see if I can find, the exact numbers, but, rough estimate, even if it's half of that, right? That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you can't tell me that, hey, this is why people can't afford housing, because they got to go jump through all these hoops, okay? And then you're telling the developers that, hey, you have to build housing that is luxury essentially, or you're not going to be able to make any money. So yeah, we're in this world where landlords, we don't have any property rights, or they're trying to strip them away from us. And they don't want you to move into your own property. They don't, like they think that somehow you're a bad guy for wanting to move into your own house. Yeah, whatever. I'm absolutely sick of the ridiculousness of California. But anyway, let's finish this article off. Before Wednesday's hearing, CAA urged landlords throughout the state to contact their assembly members and express their opposition. Thousands of rental property owners took part in the campaign. While the bill continued to advance Wednesday, members of the Assembly Housing and Community Development Committee instructed Durazo to address the concerns raised by the CAA. Thank you to those owners who sent letters. Stay tuned for updates. And, this is a far left leaning progressive politician. I highly doubt that she is going to even look at, much less consider, the suggestions made by landlords, because in her mind, landlords are evil, okay? And she doesn't understand how the business operates. She doesn't understand the unintended consequences of a ridiculous piece of legislation like this. Just merely having good cause eviction isn't good enough. Okay, they want to make it so you can't evict for any reason whatsoever. Not so you can move into your property, not so you can get out of the rental business, not for anything. They want to make it impossible, and they want you to keep the rents low forever. You have to keep your rents cheap so that these people over here can afford to live, but I can't make my mortgage payment. Doesn't matter. You need to pay so that they can live in your property for cheap. Yeah, well, you know what? No, I don't. Okay, I'm not going to invest there. I'm not going to be in this business. I'm not going to put up with this garbage. And I think a lot of California landlords feel the same way.